Fantastic. Good morning and welcome to everybody that's joined us here on this Wednesday. It's a real privilege to have you here. I see it's a nice turnout that we've got in the group. I'm sure we'll get a couple of other people joining us as well. But the main reason for this is the confusion in the marketplace that we've all experienced over the past couple of months. I'm sure all of you know that there's this transition that's gone from CETA to QCTO, and it has created, in my opinion, a fair amount of confusion and chaos in the marketplace. And as a result of that, there's doubt and there's a certain maybe underlying misinformation and so forth. And our primary objective would be to assist you. Now, Penny and I started IntraSafe a couple of years ago, 10, 12, I think it's 13 years ago, where we then said, no longer will we run health and safety training courses. We are going to run sessions assisting other trainers to get into the training business. And that's going to be our focus and our objective. Help others prosper and excel is what our statement is. And in doing that, I believe that we have managed to assist dozens of training providers, both in South Africa as well on the African continent. And we'll talk a little bit about that. And these training providers can then go ahead and run their businesses, do what they do best, and we do what we do best. So with that in mind, I'm going to stop the video's camera, and I'm going to go straight to the PowerPoint and we'll start and get into that. So there we go. Okay, so you got an invitation from Natalie or WhatsApp or Facebook or LinkedIn or someplace like that, from Gmail or someplace saying, hey, what we want to do is we want to share the information that we've gathered so far with regards to QCTO and where training providers stand as far as first aid is concerned. And that's what this presentation is going to be all about. And right at the end, I'm going to ask you to ask your questions. If you don't mind just quickly jotting down the questions as we go along and then hold them to the end. I'd like to stick to the time frame, and then we will open the mics and we will talk as much as you want to, to provide you with information. I am going to record the session, and the reason for that is that we'll put it up onto YouTube, and directly this evening, Natalie will share the YouTube URL or the link with you, and you and your partners and your colleagues and so forth can watch the video. Okay, so let's get straight into the process. Now, I mentioned that Penny and I started this organization about certainly 13 years ago. And we did that as a result of the fact that my son, my adult son, who happens to be a commercial diver and a sports dive instructor and a skipper and a rescue diver, he had up seasons and down seasons in the diving industry. And we decided that what we would do is we'd like to help him so that he can set up a training establishment and he could train scuba divers, both professional as well as that's commercial divers, as well as sports divers. And that's exactly what we did. We embarked on the journey to find out how we get him registered with the Department of Employment and Labor, and we went a long way down that road. He did all the necessary Department of Employment and Labor courses, the level 1, 2, and 3, and because he was already an instructor, that was great. And then in the midst of all of that, the chief inspector at the time, Mr. Tibozana, issued a notification or a directive saying, from now on, we have to go to the CETAs. And Penny and I looked at each other and went, what the heck? That's new. We don't know how to do that. So we embarked on the journey, but regrettably, the journey was so long that Nathan, my son, decided, no, he's going to move on, and he and his wife emigrated to Denmark. So once again, we lost another South African as a result of the bureaucracy that was being imposed on us as a training establishment. Now, that means that we have personally felt the effects of the bureaucratic approach that they've had to these short courses. And these short courses, for most, it's just a 1 or a 2 or 3 day course. It's a short course, it's a micro course, and it's now being called a skills program. So that was the frustration. We decided, what are we going to do? How are we going to do this? Now, a little bit of background about me. I worked in the forces previously, both the police force as well as in the Navy. I became an officer in the Navy, got into security, from security, then went to NOSA and worked for NOSA for a couple of wonderful years. I loved working for them as an organization. But after about 5 years, I decided to set up my own training business. And that's exactly what I did. I set up this training business, but it was really a headache. There were no digital devices. We couldn't research as one would normally do. Where to go to libraries and where to get publications and things like that. Now, having learned that lesson, Penny and I decided, instead of us going through the training business anymore. We want to help other trainers get up and running as quickly as possible, as professionally as possible. We also want to find a situation where we can be honest with them so we don't waste the time and the effort and the energy. And we want to do it in such a way that they walk away, if they're running a training company, that they become profitable and have the best chance of becoming profitable. But for many of you, because you might be working for an organization, that you do the very best you can for that organization as an employee. And we'll be talking to both of you. Okay, we're members of SIOSH and corporate members with the South African Institute of Occupational Safety and Health. We're members of IOSH, which is the International Occupational Safety and Health, and we're members of APID. Okay, so having said that, it is important to note, neither Penny nor myself are attorneys. So if you need legal advice, it's really quite important that you approach a lawyer and you speak to a lawyer rather than us. If you need a lawyer, talk to us. We are well connected and we know attorneys, including the attorney that's with SIOSH. He's actually an advocate, Advocate Renaud Luch, and we can put you on to him if you're a member of SIOSH for his services, which are free. Okay, so right at the beginning, I asked Natalie just to quickly introduce herself, but I'm going to do this for everybody that's just joined us. If Natalie doesn't have your details, please would you just WhatsApp your name to her on her number, 082 499 6911. That's 082 499 6911. Or you can drop it into the chat box at the bottom here, because we have a lot of information that we would like to share with you. And this information is changing all the time. We're getting new information, new insights, and we want to keep you up to date as far as possible. Of course, you can register, and then, of course, you can unsubscribe if you want to at some stage. So the company INTRA provides training solutions. We have three primary legs. The first leg is that we help trainers set themselves up in a business. And we have a licensing business model. I'll touch on that very briefly. Then we have training material, which I'll touch on as well. We've got a whole library of training material that you can acquire. And then the last thing that we have, which is Penny's baby, which is our e-learning platform. Okay, more about that in a moment. So now I just want to talk to you a little bit from a business point of view. If you happen to be a training provider, a service provider, it is so important to realize, as far as health and safety is concerned, there are millions upon millions upon millions of people that need some form, semblance of health and safety training. Apart from employees, which we'll touch on in a moment, there's something like 38.7 million adults, that's the age 15 to 64, that need training. And first aid training, that's your market. We will never, ever, ever reach saturation. Please, Lord, that we could reach saturation. But then the actual primary market that we'll be talking about in this presentation are employees or self-employed people that fall under the Occupational Health and Safety Act, or, as Peter was talking, under the Mines Health and Safety Act. Our primary focus is still Occupational Health and Safety Act, or OHSA. Now, in the legislation, you know that the law says people will be trained in first aid. And we see that in the general safety regulations. We see it in the commercial diving regulations. We see it in another piece of legislation called the Merchant Shipping Act, and then the SAS-REA Act. So there we go. We see first aid, first aid, first aid, first aid, or medical services, as they speak in the SAS-REA Act. But then on the other hand, there's 38 million people that we said that need life skills first aid training. This is first aid training that would then be for people such as those mentioned on the screen there. This is really important. And this is how I personally got into first aid. I was in the scouting movement. First, they have an organization called the Cub Scouts, and I was a Cub, and I did first aid there with St. John's or Red Cross. I think it's St. John's. Then I got my Leaping Wolf badge, and I went into the scouting organization, and I became a scout in Kimberley. And there we did more first aid training and got our first aid badges and things like that. Then from there, I left, and I mentioned that I became a policeman, and I joined the Navy, and I did more first aid courses there. Then when I left the Navy, I became a scuba diver with an organization called NAUI, the National Underwater Association Instructors, and some of you know the name PADI, and we did first aid courses there. Now, none of those courses are accredited, approved, registered, none of them. You don't have to be. It's a life skill. Like, nobody has to be an accredited instructor to teach you how to ride a bicycle. Ride the bicycle. It's as simple as that. But of course, what we do want to make sure is that the first aid instructors are capable and that they're able to do a great job. That's important. We certainly do not want novices running first aid courses. And that's a point which I make over and over and over again, is we do not want amateurs in this game. We want professionals, or at least subject matter generalists. Okay. Now, talking about legislation, we know that the Occupational Health and Safety Act falls under criminal legislation. And we also know that for those of you that are in the health and safety world, one of our big objectives is to keep people out of hospital. I mean, that's the reason we have health and safety. So on the one hand, we've got employers and we want to keep them out of jail. And on the other hand, we have employees and we want to keep them out of hospital. And that's why we do it. Yes, of course, it's a commercial venture. And yes, of course, we need to generate income to fund it. But our primary objective is to keep people out of the wheelchair. Now, I mentioned that because if you look at the spine in the middle with the spinal fusion and all the screws that go into the spine, that's my spine. That's my spine. I broke my back some years ago in a sporting accident, and I know exactly what it's like. And Penny kept me alive, and she nursed me through 2 spinal fusions. So I am empathetic when a person says I have a back problem, or as we see people, that young guy that was crippled at the George building collapse, he'll never walk again. That's it. That's the end of any active life that he may want to have. Oh, it really gets to me. Okay. Now, in the Occupational Health and Safety Act, we know that we've got about 20 regulations. One of the regulations is called the General Safety Regulation. A specific regulation in that General Safety Regulation, we call it the GSR, which, by the way, was written back in 1986, is about first aid. And it says the following, and I've just extracted this, so it's not exactly word perfect. You need to get your own copy of the GSR, and I do suggest that you print it and then use a highlighter and study it. Please study it so that you know what it says, because there's a lot of garbage going around where people are saying certain things which is not there. So firstly, it says the employer must ensure persons at work receive prompt attention. The second is, that's General Safety Regulation 3.2, where 5 or more employees at the workplace, the employer must provide an accessible first aid box or boxes. Then it says, depending on the type of injuries, the nature of the activities, and the number of employees, provide suitable first aid equipment. Now that, by the way, is a critical aspect. I may touch on it later on there. Then, this is an important one. It says where there are 10 or more people, you guys know all these numbers, where there are 10 or more employees, the employer must provide a first aider. For groups of up to 10 to 50, and then up to 10 to 50, 10 to 100, where it comes to shops and offices. All right, having said that, let's move on. So we're still looking at the General Safety Regulation 3 and what it says. 3.4 says, these first aiders must be in possession of a valid certificate of competency issued by a chief inspector approved training provider. That's the company that has, or the individual that has a CI number. Now, here's a very important one as well. It says where high-risk substances, toxic, corrosive, or similar hazardous substances are present, the employer must ensure first aiders receive additional training. Let me say that again. Those of you that are providing training at the moment, first aid training, and not complying with 3.5 means that you're not assisting your employer or your client to comply with this requirement. Wow. That's actually quite a harsh thing to say, but I'll be a little forthright today. Then it says that the employer must affix a conspicuous first aid box location sign, as well as the name of the person in charge. We know that. And then here's another section which we often find never comes up in first aid training. And it says here, the employer must make sure that if the employees are exposed to any potential biological or chemical injury to the eye or skin, they must ensure that there is an eye wash fountain or a fast-reacting high deluge shower that is accessible, and train them in the use thereof. Now, why am I saying all these things? Because if I was to audit you, as I used to when I was at NOSA, I'd go there and I'd have a look at what you're doing and what you aren't doing. I guarantee you, most of the people here today, and I'm not saying this nastily because I'm part of this entire game, will find that there are certain elements which are not in the first aid training courses, quite simply. Okay, so having said that, not to offend anybody, just bear with me. Now, we know that there's a lot said about competency, and the Department of Employment and Labour published a document called the Competent Person Guideline. If you want a copy of it, I've got it. I can send it to you. You just let Natalie know, and she'll send it to you as well. But here, in this regulation, they talk about the competent person, which has nothing to do with competency in terms of SACO, CETUS, NQF, QCTO. Nothing. This is a legal definition found in legislation, not in the bureaucratic SACO system. It says a competent person means one person who is in possession of a valid certificate of competency in first aid, issued or endorsed by, and we know those three. The point that I want to point out is any person or organization approved by an inspector for this purpose. Okay, I don't want to get into the details and the semantics of it, but competency is a legal requirement and not just a SACO requirement. But enough of that. Then we also know that if a person, an employer, or it says here in the GSR3, any person, that's you and me and the employer and the employee, fails to comply with any provision of Regulation 3. Remember, I just pointed out a couple of them that we might not be complying with. Now, I don't do first aid training anymore. It says there that person shall be guilty of an offence and liable on conviction to a fine not exceeding R1,000 or imprisonment for a period not exceeding 6 months. Now, those of you that have attended any form of a legal compliance course will know that is R1,000 per charge, per conviction. Okay, more about that on our Occupational Health and Safety Act legal liability course. Okay, so as a result of that, what we did is we actually put together a business model, almost like a franchise. It's not a franchise. It is actually a license in terms of the Consumer Protection Act. And it comprises of these different elements. And Natalie will provide you with a document called the Prospectus. If you're interested in broadening your scope of the training that you're doing or would like to refine it, we can tell you about the business model or the licensing models. So those are the different elements. But what we've done is we've extracted the ones in white, specifically for first aiders. So this comprises of the business model, business onboarding, a certain amount of business orientation. Then we provide QCTO aligned training material, the DIY accreditation AccrediKit, for those of you that are preparing for accreditation, the DIY accreditation workshops that Penny will talk about in a moment, and then webinars and updates and things of that nature, wonderful networking opportunities, and then an opportunity to upgrade the license back to the one that we were talking about. So there are the features in the sense. Those features will be in the prospectus, and you can go through them. You can have a look at what we offer and see whether it'll work for you. Maybe it doesn't work for you. And we'll be the first to say, don't do it if it doesn't work for you. Honestly, don't spend money on something that you don't need if you're not going to use it, merely to get a badge. Because this is going to become a fairly expensive exercise. And Penny will talk about the costings just now. So that's where the FASTRAC was born. Penny's going to tell you a little bit more about the FASTRAC and how we put it together.
Thanks, Ken. So we're very excited about the FASTRAC bundle. It really, as Ken was saying, is just like a shortcut for you to get up and running with the QCTO first aid qualifications as soon as possible. In terms of what qualifications you would need in order to train the QCTO basic, you would need a valid intermediate emergency first aid certificate, more than 3 years practical experience as a first aider, and a valid registration or license as a first aider. Now, we have queried what would that registration look like, seeing as that there is not a first aid association in South Africa, and it looks as if possibly the SIOSH registration would be sufficient. Obviously, if you're already registered with the HPCSA, then it wouldn't be an issue for you at all. The intermediate, you just go one level higher, so you would then have your advanced emergency first aider, more than 3 years experience again, and once again, you would be registered as a first aider. And for the advanced, this is very important. You would need an NQF level 5 qualification. So to be a paramedic or something similar, more than 3 years working experience, and you would need to be registered with the HPCSA.
Okay, so what we're going to be talking about now is these curriculum. So I mentioned there was Department of Employment and Labour with its levels 1, 2, and 3. Then they changed that and they made them unit standards 119567 and so forth. And there were 3 of them. And then we had to rewrite all our training material again, and we had to bring it in line with the QCTO. Now, it's a question which I'm sure many, many people are asking is why? Was the Department of Employment and Labour course a lousy course? Was it insufficient? Was it out of date? The answer is, yeah, maybe. But we don't think so. It could have been much easier to fix. In any case, then the the CETA, who wrote it? Who was involved in the development of that? And once again, was it really necessary that we have to go through this rigmarole again to start up again? Okay, so what happened is that the QCTO gathered a group of people together, and they then helped the QCTO write the outline and the curriculum of these 3 programs. And they appointed a person in charge of the project who was regarded as a subject matter specialist, an SME. And we, in my specific instance, had no insight into that because I was lying flat on my back and Penny was trying to keep me alive. In any case, and I was in a lot of pain. Now, having said that, they then introduced these 3 programs, basic, intermediate, and advanced. And you can see the numbers over there. No longer we talk about unit standard numbers like 119567. Now we talk about SP, Skills Program, 230-801, 230-802, 230-803. And you can download these curricula on the website, on the QCTO website. You can have a look at them and you can see who the subject matter expert was. Now, without being nasty, I spoke to the person that developed these, and I asked him the question, a hell of a nice guy, by the way. I asked him the question, what do you know about first aid? You're the subject matter expert writing the curriculum. His honest answer to me was nothing. We went, really? Okay. They published this in September 23. Since then, not a single skills program has been published or even curriculum developed. All right, having said that, it is really frustrating. Then, of course, the HPCSA stepped in and they said, we don't like certain elements in the curriculum. And we were told that it'd be rectified, but that was then, this is now. All right, having said that, now the QCTO course curricula developed by SMEs, subject matter experts, and there are differing definitions of an SME. I just want to point out something. In the curriculum itself of all 3 programs, they reference a piece of legislation called Regulation 7. It's badly phrased, and it talks about the stocked first aid kit. Now, remember I read you the requirements of the regulation, and they reference a thing called Regulation 7. Goodness gracious me, I don't know who made that trash up. That is absolute nonsense. And I've checked that out because back in 2005, the Department of Employment and Labor wrote this draft regulation. This is not law. It's never been promulgated, never been signed by the minister, never been signed by the minister, the president. And people willy-nilly quote Regulation 7. If you Google Regulation 7 boxes, there are people out there fraudulently selling training material as complying with the Act or the regulation when it doesn't. Okay, now what does that mean? There are a number of implications of that. Regulation 7 is non-existent, and that is absolute rubbish. All right, having said that, you can hear I'm quite animated when it comes to, it's just what a lot of fucking nonsense we have to deal with it. Okay, so now we've got training material that we're going to provide. Penny's going to quickly talk you through that while I calm down.
So we actually decided after a lot of lobbying last year and lobbying different parties, etc., and pointing out different errors and mistakes, we had to make a decision that, you know what, our function and our business model is to support our licensees and to find solutions. So it is what it is, and we find a way around it to make it easier for you so that you can go forward. So in terms of the FASTRAC bundle that we offered, a huge value is, in fact, the life skills program called the FASTRAC, which includes excellent high-quality training content and also PowerPoints, which are very, very helpful. The QCTO curriculum-aligned training materials do not at this stage have PowerPoints, but they completely answer everything according to the curriculum for the basic, intermediate, and advanced. And it's constantly evolving as there's more and more of an emphasis. What you may not realize, those of you that are still understanding and starting to understand what is required from QCTO as opposed to your CETAs, is that with the skills programs, you don't do the external exam, the ESA, which is relevant to the QCTO qualifications, but you do formative assessments as part of the training, as part of the daily training. and then you have a summative assessment at the end of each course. So the emphasis on these assessments and the quality control of these assessments has been an evolutionary process over the last few months. And so what I'm saying to you is that the training material that we provide to you is constantly being updated, literally on a month-to-month basis. And as we get more information and more clarity as to exactly what the QCTO is requiring, we add that into the training material for you, and you can simply access it from your Google Drive and have the updated information immediately. One of the newest things that has been released is that the QCTO expect that the thesis, the final summative assessments, are approved by them ahead of time, and also that they are changed and varied. So this is something that we're dealing with, and we make whatever is necessary available to you so it's easier for you on your side. So with those training materials, you have all the typical that you would be familiar with: facilitator guides, learner workbooks, which include your formative assessments. Then the very important Forms 3 and Forms 4, which is really like your alignment matrix that you were familiar with the CETAs. That's your learner matrix. And then an implementation plan so that you can show exactly how your lesson is going to be divided time-wise and who's going to be doing what at what stage and how you're going to deliver the information using what audiovisual or practical means, etc. And then there's your FISA, which is your final integrated summative assessment, which, as I say, is changing all the time and evolving all the time. In addition, we also give you access to our e-learning basic first aid, which is aligned to the life skills FASTRAC training material that you would also be supplied with. And this is an excellent way just to give additional knowledge to your learners in terms of the theory. Obviously, it doesn't cover any of the practical, but it's really a great add-on. And it's proven to be very, very helpful, especially if you're dealing with learners that are split in different geographical locations. It can cut down on some of the time that you have to take them out of the workplace to complete your practicals then as the next part of it. As with the FASTRAC, you are able to issue certificates of completion. For the QCTO courses, accredited training, you may not issue a certificate of competence. That is entirely the function of QCTO, and they charge a separate fee of 149 Rand per certificate, which we think is like really a lot. But this is the way it is. It is what it is, but it's doable, and we make a plan. There is an argument that you may still issue certificates of completion. We suggest rather, and we've taken legal counsel on this, that as far as QCTO accredited first aid training goes, rather issue a statement of conformity. And Ken is actually preparing that document for our licensees and having it legally tested, if you like, so that there is no confusion in terms of inspectors then coming to see whether the training was done, but you are in the process of waiting for certificates of competency to be received from the QCTO. And that we have found from experience last year and currently is taking longer than we thought it would. So even a month's delay is still too long because you need to prove that the employees have been trained and that you are satisfied with their level of skill in terms of the training that you've provided. So your assessments and your moderation, of course, is very important. But in some cases, I think licensees, accredited licensees, have been waiting for 6 months or longer for certificates of competency to be issued. So there is an issue here. There is a challenge here. I'm just telling you the facts so that you can be aware. And hopefully, as we work together with the QCTO, we can sort out these time delays and help make the whole the whole process a lot more streamlined and easier for them to manage going forward. So the accreditation workshop is something that our team has been working on for some 14 months now. It's not me on my own at all. I wish I could take all the credit, but absolutely that would not be fair. So I have a whole team of training material development experts, also several of our licensees, because of their tenure, like in some cases more than 3 decades, been working in first aid, both in South Africa and internationally. They have been used as QCTO verifiers, and that's also been very helpful because they've given us a lot of really clear information and feedback as to exactly what the QCTO verifiers are looking for, and making use of the instruments and Form 5, etc., that QCTO does provide us with to make sure that you are fully prepared for your site visit, etc. The next workshop that we have is on the 6th of March. It runs from 9 o'clock until 11 o'clock. It's a 2-hour workshop, not too long. We have had much longer in the past, but we found that wasn't necessary because everything is really available to you in the Google Drive. And simply the workshop is to break it down into as simple as possible, step-by-step process, so that you can really understand and walk away with great confidence, understanding that it is doable, you can do it, and it's just a case of getting your ducks in a row and deciding as to when you're going to start this process. So we cover your preparation phase, which I think is very, very important. You don't want to start your online submission before you've really committed to the entire process. Otherwise, you're simply going to be declined right at the very beginning. You want to make sure that you have every single document that's going to be required. You want to make sure that your site visit is already pre-prepared, and that you understand everything that the QCTO is going to be asking you for. And we go through each and every section here in some detail in the workshop, just showing you where to find this particular information and checklist templates, etc. Then there's your online submission, which quite frankly is way better than the CETA systems of old. It's working well. So there's good and bad with both CETA and QCTO, but the good with the QCTO is that the online system is working well. And it's very straightforward, and there's a 2-part stage to that. They then do the desktop evaluation to consider whether you are eligible for accreditation, and then your site visit will be booked. Because QCTO does not have the capacity to deal with the number of applicants and so much else of the work involved here, they do partner with the CETAs, and in our case for first aid, they partner with HWCETA. And I know some of you may be concerned to hear that, because HWCETA had a very particular reputation. However, it does seem to be working well, and the HWCETA verifiers, of which we have some of our own licensees as well, seem to be doing a very credible job. So we are satisfied with that. The site visit takes a lot of preparation. As those of you that have done CETA, you already know that. And there are different emphases with the QCTO site visit that you might not have experienced with the CETA one. So it's great to be 100% prepared. Then there's the accreditation process after your site visit, which is where you are recommended or given a few days for remediation if something needed to be fixed quickly. But really like a positive attempt to make sure that as long as you've got everything in place, there should be absolutely zero reason why you will not get your accreditation. Then the next phase, which has actually become extremely important, is the post-accreditation phase, which is all about the QCTO quality assurance and the way forward for you to manage doing QCTO accredited programs. And we do have a lot of guidance and advice on that. And we're getting a lot of feedback, of course, from our licensees that are already successfully accredited, that are going through that process and giving us more information. Sadly, there hasn't been much clarity available from the QCTO. So it seems to be evolving as we go from month to month. I attended a QCTO workshop on Friday, the whole day, and this was one of the biggest talking points, and where will it be a year from now? But I think once again, if we all work together, and It's also important that QCTO understand our industry better, and the needs and demands that are in our industry. For example, this morning, once again, we had a request for training for our licensees to answer to literally within a couple of hours. And we were able to sort that out. That would be very difficult if you were running a QCTO accredited program that had to be pre-approved at least a month in advance. So there are different scenarios. These are a couple of examples of our licensees that have gone through the site visit successfully. And of course, if you are going to be doing first aid, as you know, with the CETAs as well, with the QCTO, there is a massive emphasis from the QCTO in terms of your venue and your venue being well prepared. And of course, the fact that you own the necessary equipment in order to deliver your first aid training. It's not just hired in for the one day and then it's not available to you ever again. They want to see, and this is part of their ongoing quality assurance, that you haven't just sailed through the accreditation, but then subsequent to that, you're actually not able to continue successfully as a proper professional first aid trainer. And then I'm going to hand back to Ken now just to talk about other benefits and opportunities.
So Penny was talking about one of our licensees actually contacted us this morning and she said, I've been let down by a facilitator. I need somebody right now to do some training for me. Now, under normal circumstances, you want to set it up properly and do a needs analysis and know exactly what the dangers, hazards, and risks are, and so forth. However, because we've got this vast network, there's about 150 people in Africa, from Cape Town to Cairo, there are people there that may be able to help you if and where and when you need assistance. If you suddenly find yourself in a situation where you need an additional facilitator, assessor, or moderator, you can look towards the network and you can, via us and our communication channels, you would then be able to say, I need a person to be in Bredasdorp on such and such a day for 16 people. They need first aid training in the agricultural sector. And somebody may very well be able to assist you. It means that you don't have to fly around the country all on your own, or drive around the country. You are a lot more equipped and empowered. And it's almost like you've got your own team of people standing by waiting for you to help. So the network is phenomenal and you can take advantage of that. I also want to say to you that as part of the network, we have some very, very impressive people ranging from doctors to lawyers to advocates that are already licensees. And they will be able to provide you with additional information and insights into certain things. Now, I don't want to get into too much detail over here, but it's one of the major things that we believe that we're able to offer is that we've got this as an offering. Okay, so having said that, then just to go back to the licenses work like this: FASTRAC, Starter, Basic, Prime. And I'm going to stop at Prime and not go to Platinum because Platinum is for corporates. We have a number of universities and large corporates with thousands of people. So ignore that one at the moment. But the idea is that you'd land up in a situation at one of those stages where you can expand your business, generate additional income, and maybe land up at Prime, where you can also get, as the accreditation starts rolling out, you can get accreditation for other things as well. Natalie will be able to provide you with more information on that topic, and we'd love to engage with you on that. So we're going to talk about the money, and Money Penny is going to just quickly discuss it. There is a bit of a shocker, which you probably saw in the advert. You probably saw the promotion spoke about the QCTO now introducing an accreditation tariff in April. Over to you, Penny.
Yes, I think we did expect that at some point in time, QCTO were going to start implementing fees, but we didn't think it would be this high. So for any first accreditation, so even if you were just going to do one skills program alone or even one qualification, but here we're specifically talking about the area that we are in, which is in short course skills programs, you would need to pay 6,000 Rand. And then for any supplementary skills programs thereafter, it would be 1,300 each, up to a maximum of 5 altogether. It used to be 6 altogether. Now it's 5 altogether at one time. So right now, getting your application in before the end of March would save you potentially 8,600 Rand. We haven't heard yet whether there's a final confirmation that these tariffs are going to be charged. but we did attend a workshop about a few weeks ago where it pretty much did sound like it's been decided on, and that's the way it's going to be, so that they can fund this huge capacity building that they need to fund going forward. And we hope that they will draw a lot more money from the skills levy rather than tariff training providers. But anyway, this is what we're dealing with at the moment. In addition, they have this very large fee per QCTO certificate, which I totally understand for a qualification, but we don't understand for a skills program. Because as you can imagine, with some 17 million odd employees, you know, at 150 Rand per certificate, and that's for ergonomics alone, which is a legal requirement for every single employee to be trained in ergonomics. You know, that's already quite a huge sum. But anyway, we have lobbied, and we continue to lobby through the various associations, etc., to suggest that for skills programs, I think we would be more than satisfied for digital certificates, and that should reduce the cost. So hopefully they will hear us at some point in time and realize that the practicality of delivering hard copy QCTO certificates does not make sense for the short course industry. So here again, this is something that we're dealing with, and we have to just go with the flow. At the moment, this is what it looks like. For those of you that have already done your DEL approval, you know that it's a 400 Rand fee directly to the Department of Employment and Labour. That still remains quite a manual process with the Department of Employment and Labour, but it's really just a rubber stamping of the qualification that you already have. For those of you that still have valid CETA accreditation for your first aid 1, 2, and 3, you can still get your Department of Employment and Labour approval because it is a recognized SAQA qualification. So don't be too concerned that you have to get your QCTO first before you get your DEL. However, as we know, with regards to the extended unit standards that have the regulatory unit standards for first aid were extended until the end of June 2026. But for sure, you don't want to be in a situation where you're sitting now in June 2026 and now you have to start the whole process for your QCTO accreditation. And that is why we are really recommending to all our licensees and to all our prime licensees, all of these services and provision of training material, etc., is fully included. So we are recommending get your first aid accreditation done with the QCTO, and then as the new health and safety skills programs become available, we don't know when they will become available. We are short of some 180 plenty short course skills programs in health and safety that we need to replace anywhere close to the most popular courses that are normally presented for health and safety. And at the moment we have 3. And these 3 are the first aid ones. So if you are particularly interested in first aid, or this is your area of expertise, that's good news for you, because you can definitely get going with this at least, and then add more health and safety skills programs later when they do become available. Timeline on that, there's supposed to be 12 coming out now. They were supposed to come out at the end of last year. The latest information that we have is that they're still in final comment stage and final approval stage. So maybe within the next couple of months. And remember that when you're going to now do a new accreditation application for the new health and safety skills programs for the QCTO, you will once again have to pay 6,000 for the first one, and then 1,300 for the next 4, up to a maximum of 5 at each and every time that you apply, maximum of 5. So the FASTRAC bundle, we literally really just charging you for the training material, and we're giving a 10% discount currently, which is valid until the end of March. So there's no additional fee that we're charging you for the do-it-yourself workshop and the do-it-yourself accreditation Google Drive. So this is a massive, massive value add. And as I say, it's not sustainable, something that we will take away as per the end of March. But we really felt that there was just such a huge need in the market. We really wanted to see if we could address that as best as possible and help as many first aiders, whether you're going to continue to become INTRA licensees or not, just to help you at least get this QCTO accreditation up and running and behind you so that you can go forward. We do hope, however, that you will be hugely impressed with what we offer you and the massive value that we offer you. And we hope that you will consider staying with us and either becoming a basic licensee or a prime licensee. Just remember, of course, that your own props and aids, etc., that you will need, your mannequins, your AEDs, etc., first aid kits, those, of course, you will have to supply. And there are more strenuous requirements regarding your venue, and those costs will also have to be thought about going forward. If you want to just purchase the training material individually, you can also do that. That's absolutely fine. You can do that online. And the FASTRAC is also available online. So if you wish to pay with a credit card and spread your payments over a period of time, that's absolutely perfect. If you prefer to get an invoice or discuss anything further with Natalie, she has our full authority to discuss money and finances with you. Please feel free to approach her directly, as we know that this really is a priority for you to get this together. And back to Ken.
Wow, Penny, thank you so much. You can hear that Penny's research into this matter has been phenomenal. She has a good understanding. She's got a good handle on it. She is prepared to go and do the research, and she has done that. She knows people in the industry. And what we want to do is make sure that you, the training provider, can actually run profitable training for your own company or if you happen to work for a company. Now, I just want to quickly start wrapping up by saying this. I personally am passionate about this. As you can hear, I get a little hot under the collar when I see what they're doing to our industry, and I'm sure so do you. And I also know that the fact that we've just been left in the dark and there's been almost no communication has now resulted in us having to find answers. I've personally been involved and in contact with Department of Employment and Labour in a number of ways. I have been in contact with past and present chief inspectors. I've been in contact with QCTO executives. And all along the line, we've been trying to get a solution and get answers and find answers. Now, having said all of that, I think it's important for you to know it is your business. And if you're going to be running this business, you have to take responsibility for all of the steps. We'll provide you with as much information as possible. We'll provide you with guidance. We'll provide you with hints and tips, and we'll provide you with updates, but it is your business. And I say that because even though you're going to go through the process of making an investment in your company and setting up these different things, that at the end of the day, the return on the investment is up to you. If you become a licensee, we'll obviously help you with things like onboard, sort of online marketing setups. We'll talk to you about sales and marketing and advertising promotions. We'll be talking about all of those things, but that's a completely different discussion that we'll have at a later stage. So I want to just wrap up by saying thank you so much for your attention. Thank you for participating. If you would like a formal quote, you can WhatsApp Natalie on 082 499 6911, that's 082 499 6911, or you can use the chat box at the bottom and just pop your details in there, say, Natalie, please send me a quote for the FASTRAC. And she will do that rapidly. She's amazing. She's on the ball all the time. Okay, so having said that, I just want to go back to what we were saying. It's a simple process. The action steps are confirm your order, do an online payment or show proof of payment. Penny will immediately deliver the training material and services. Penny will host an onboarding session with you, and I will do orientation with you. Then it's up to you to start customizing, marketing, training, earning, and saving. And for those of you that are in business on your own, it is important to say that this is an opportunity like none other. We know for a fact that in South Africa, training has to take place. And we know that there's going to be changes to the legislation. And we know for a fact that there's going to be a lot of drop-offs as a result of people not being able to do what we're suggesting, and because they don't have the necessary support. And we know that. And we don't want to ensure that the market is denuded with service providers. We want to make sure that there are enough trainers that can train the people in South Africa, starting mainly with the General Safety Regulation 3 and the Mines Health and Safety Act first aiders. I'm sure you have questions, so I'm going to stop the recording in a moment, and I'm going to hand over. We can open the microphones and we can ask questions of everybody that's here. That recording will go up this evening onto YouTube. Natalie will notify you of the URL so you can watch it again and again and again. Please feel free to share, and please feel free to comment. We're not perfect by any means. There's a lot that we still have to learn, and as we go through the learning curve, we value it if people comment and tell us yes, no, maybe, good, bad, or otherwise. Those of you that are members of SIOSH, the South African Institute of Occupational Safety and Health, we have been a corporate member for some years, and we really appreciate SIOSH members' comments as to what we could or should be doing and what we are missing. Now, having said that, it's over to you. It's going to be your business. It's going to be something that you can do to generate income for your family and your staff and your community and so forth. So let me stop the recording, and then we'll open the microphone. So those of you that are just watching the video at the moment, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Please subscribe to our channel, and we'll be able to notify you of any new training material we go. So Natalie, I'd just like to get a quick word from you. Say hi and goodbye, and then to Penny.
Hello and goodbye. You have all the details. Please WhatsApp me or email me, and I can put that quote together for you. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Nat. We'll chat just now. Penny?
Excellent. Thank you so much for your attention, and we're looking forward to making things a little bit easier for you going forward, one step at a time.
Fantastic. Cecil, thank you so much for your comment. I really appreciate that. Yeah, I need to drink some water now. My throat is dry. Okay, and with that, we're going to stop the recording, and we'll chat to you with the open mic. Bye for now.